Hello everyone.
Hello.
Sam here.
Amy here.
This is my beautiful fiance, Amy. A big part of my OCD recovery journey, a big part of my life, especially when I was really suffering. Amy played a big part of that. Obviously we'll go into some more detail in the video of how she did that. But I thought it'd be a good idea. I spoke to Rob as well about it, of how the relatability side of things. So if you're in a relationship, either a boyfriend or girlfriend, how your partner can help play a part, how you can help each other, my personal lowest moments, how it affected Amy, where I am today, and sort of Amy's view on it. Okay, so I mean, I'll do most of the talking, but obviously this video is mainly about you and your experience with OCD. So where would you like to start? Would you like to cast? We were talking about this before we started the video, because it is hard to remember what it was like, because we were talking about 4 years ago and I was really bad. So you got to cast your mind back, and now and then you get a light bulb moment. You think, oh my God, remember that? Or oh my God, remember when you were like this? Remember when we couldn't go to this? Remember when you avoided that? Remember when you were really crying your eyes out to me? So you suddenly remember it throughout the day. But we had to really cast our mind back before this video. So let's go back to, where do you want to go? So, should we go back to the
beginning?
I reckon the big starting point was my 18th birthday. Like I remember having a really bad trigger here, or just a big sort of meltdown, and really sort of, I felt completely hopeless, completely lost, completely helpless. I didn't really know what OCD was there. So we were going to Lanzarote. I just turned 18, hadn't I?
Yeah.
We were celebrating, going on our first holiday together. And yeah, tell them how it went.
So like Sam said, it was a trip for your 18th. First time we'd kind of gone on holiday abroad as a couple. So me being oblivious to obviously everything that Sam was going through mentally at this point, was just very excited about the holiday. And then almost as soon as we got to the hotel that evening, it all just kind of came out that what Sam was dealing with, and it was, if now I had to explain it, I would say it's just one massive confession session.
I remember in the build up towards the holiday, I mean, I put on a brave face and saying to Amy, oh yes, I'm really excited, oh yes, I can't wait. But deep down I was really consumed with chronic guilt, chronic shame. I remember it was latching onto POCD, real event, false memories in the past, and I just felt like I was undeserving of any holiday with my partner, or any enjoyment on the holiday. I felt like I couldn't be let off the hook. Just felt like I couldn't enjoy a moment's peace because of this one thing in the past, or because of some of the thoughts I was getting at unwanted times. So just we have got a dog who might just suddenly run around in the middle of the video, and if he suddenly jumps up and knocks my cup of tea everywhere, then
that'll be why.
Then there might
he's settled.
He's settled now, so that's all right. So really struggling the build up, but Amy didn't know this until we got to Lanzarote, and that is when, like I said, it just turned into a big confession cycle, reassurance, and yeah, I remember going back to the room and just crying my eyes out, and just poor Amy was trying to enjoy it, but then you're obviously seeing me in such a terrible state. So it's really difficult for you.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opener, because obviously this had not just been going on just for the duration of the past couple of days, the past week or so. It quite obvious it was something which was troubling you for quite a while, and to kind of have all this information and all these feelings of sadness and distress kind of put onto you, and especially with being away from home, and obviously your first time away from home, it was really tricky to deal with. And again, like Sam said, you still want to make the most of your holiday, but you're like, oh, now I have to kind of help Sam deal with all this, and I don't really know what it is myself. I don't know how to approach it. So naturally, everything I said to you that night and all the nights that we were away on holiday, because it was literally go out for dinner, come back to the room and confess, and just sit there with like my cocktail and Sam's just having a massive confession.
It would be something new every evening, wouldn't it? It would just be latching onto something else. And this is what I talk about with confession, that no matter how much you do, it never delivers, because OCD would just find something else. I'll be confessing about another thought, another memory, another event. And
naturally, because I had no idea what it was at the time, I just provided a whole heap of reassurance.
But it's understandable though, because when you see me in the state I was, I couldn't even function.
No.
I was honestly leaning on your shoulder, just crying my eyes out. Obviously it felt a lot worse because we were on holiday, so it feels like we should have been enjoying this moment. But it was just, I felt like I couldn't even face the day, let alone go and enjoy a holiday.
And when your other half is sobbing on you, all you naturally will do is say, it's fine, don't worry, I haven't done anything wrong, there, all of this. And obviously looking back now, that was completely wrong, but who were we to know? Rather naive at the time.
To be fair to you, you were the one, because I remember speaking to you about thoughts at unwanted times. So an example I give is during intimacy, because that was a big one of mine, hence why the chronic guilt was ramped up. I remember speaking to you about that, and you were saying, have you ever heard of intrusive thoughts? Because of your medical background, you sort of looked into that, the psychology side of things, and I think intrusive thoughts had popped up. And that is when we went down the OCD, or we discovered what OCD was, and I was there reading the symptoms and sort of ticking off, that's me, that's me, that's me. So we made contact with a therapist, and so this will be the next thing. So when I started sort of seeking help, and how that went. So if you talk about the time when I was on the phone to a therapist, or just to a sort of a anxiety centre, and just talk about the time, I mentioned it in my video quite recently, how you were just making notes. Because that was a massive form of reassurance, because I was so scared. It was like confessing my thoughts to someone down the phone. And I was scared of being judged by this person, or she was going to report me to the police, or she was going to hang up the phone, or get her manager on the phone and go, oh my God, we never heard of this before. So I was making sure you were writing down everything she was saying, so I could then go through it with you later, and then just get bundles of reassurance from you.
And obviously it's a very personal thing, and for OCD and how a person deals with it, it's their own journey, and us as partners, friends, family, we can do everything we can to support them. But to have me listen in on that phone call, all because Sam wanted to make sure, oh, did I say this, or did I say this thought out loud, or do you think because I said this, do you think they're gonna think I'm weird and crazy and I need locking up and all of this? And looking back now, that feels very, very strange to be doing that, because like I said, it's very personal, it's your thoughts, it's your journey, and obviously we can support people as much as we can, but it was so strange to try and support you. And obviously I was doing what I thought was right at the time, supporting you by giving you reassurance, but it was completely the wrong thing to do.
We'll go on to that later, of how that changed to tough love. Compassion is important, but how also tough love was such a big part of my journey. But going back to that phone call, so I remember getting off the phone call, and I felt overwhelming relief, and I think I even hugged Amy and just sort of cried my eyes out. And a point that you said before this call, when we was out on that walk just now, how optimistic we were quite positive, weren't we? So although I felt like I was at rock bottom and I felt no hope, there was always that background positivity from you, and because we felt like we had each other, and so you were my shoulder to cry on. It was like the first big step of getting help. So that was the big relief I felt there. And it was like, oh my God, Sam, well done, that's such a big thing. I remember telling friends that I'm suffering mentally, and I finally reached out for help. So that was quite a remarkable moment.
And I think at that point it was a big milestone in the journey, and I was like, right, we've got some help now, so give it, say, 6 months, this will all be sorted. And I think putting a timestamp on it was obviously completely wrong, because this
is what we wanted though. We wanted it just to be gone. Get rid. Oh my God, this is terrible. Get rid of it. And this is before we knew how OCD operated.
And we were like, great, found a therapist. We'll just have you'll have a weekly phone call, you'll confess everything, you'll read back through all your notes, we'll do that for 6 months, then it'll be sorted. And we generally, deep down, we knew that it would get better, and obviously things always do get better, and they're not always going to be as rubbish as they are, but...
No guarantee, mind.
Yeah. But like I said, we thought it would be a really quick fix, and I think trying to access services and mental health services, especially for the OCD and intrusive thoughts, is so tricky when you're really new to the symptoms and really new to like the thoughts and behaviours and compulsions. So I think from there we went to the therapy session in person, which obviously we had to wait months for. You went, and again took me along with you, and absolutely now if we were at that stage again, I'll be like, no, this is something you need to do by yourself. Again, pushing that kind of tough love. I'm here, I'm supporting you, but this is something you need to progress and work towards. But still, there is so much like misinformation and not enough education around OCD. And I remember the therapist said something along the lines of, oh, that's pure OCD, that's like thoughts and compulsions, you don't want that. And I think we both kind of sat there, didn't say anything to each other, and was like, is this not what Sam is dealing with anyway? And to have someone say that to you again, it just puts you almost back to the start. And I'm like, oh well, what do we do now if this therapist has said you don't want that, and that's what we're dealing with? It was really frustrating. And we came at that session, I was like, what do we do now?
Yeah, I remember feeling really helpless after that. I thought there was just no hope. I thought I was the exception. I've just felt so alone, so isolated. Now, I think that was mainly because I've had taboo-related themes, so quite difficult themes to talk about, to open up to Amy about, and just some of the unwanted thoughts that are happening. It's very challenging, very difficult situation to be in, especially when you're so scared and you don't even know how OCD operates one bit. So even talking about these thoughts just feels like really, really scary. So yeah, how much? So we talk about our first holiday, which was August 2018.
Yeah.
When was this? Was this sort of at winter time?
Yeah.
Because I just talk about a bit during them. So before I actually reached out for help, do you remember that? So remember the phone call before work one time?
Yeah.
And I was uncontrollably crying to Amy down the phone. Now, it was just a standard day at work. I think I got triggered the night before or the morning. Something triggered me, I can't remember what. But I remember I said, Amy, I can't do this anymore. I really can't live like this any longer. I need help. I can't carry on. I was really sad thinking about it now. But that's how low I was. And I also remember coming home from, I'll be out with friends or at a football match, and I'd just be cuddling up with Amy, and Amy would just be cradling me, and I'd be crying at you, or crying with you, and sometimes because it would really upset you. And yeah, just looking back now, it's like every evening or every time we were together was either crying, confession, reassurance. I remember I had in my notes on my phone, I had paragraphs of reassurance, just saying, oh, thoughts are thoughts, you've done nothing wrong, you've got OCD, you're not your thoughts, you will get better, you 100% will get better, you'll get there, carry on. Which bless you, because of course you're going to say those things when you don't know how to operate. You're going to do all you can to try and help me, but when we realised that was counterproductive, that is when we took the tough love and but also being compassionate approach.
And I think there's a lot of impact on the other person that, say, someone with OCD is on this journey with. So
just before you carry on, I just want to say, like, this will really show how selfish OCD can feel. Because I was so internalised with myself, I was so self-centred because I was so consumed in my own mind. And now only when Amy talks about this now, I'm thinking, wow, like, you don't realise, I wasn't aware this was going on at the time, but because I felt like I was so vulnerable and I was so stuck in my own head, it felt like all your attention was with me. So. Yeah.
And it has a massive impact on the other people in the OCD sufferer's life. And I remember, like Sam said, the phone call, that was really early in the morning. Sam on his way to work, and I'm just getting this phone call, picking it up, and Sam's absolutely bawling his eyes out on the other end of the phone. And again, it's like, what do I do?
What can you do?
I can't drop everything and just come down and see you because you've got work, and
you've got a life, you've got work, you've got stuff to be doing.
I was studying at the time for exams, and again, you feel quite alone as well when you're not the sufferer but the supporter. And I would be like, well, what would I tell my parents if I suddenly rush off to go meet Sam at 8 o'clock in the morning because he's had a breakdown before work? And the number of times I left mine to go and stay at Sam's for the night because he's had like a really crap day, feels awful. And again, I kind of have to spin a few lies almost to my parents and be like, oh yeah, I'm just staying around Sam's. Don't know, probably gonna chill and watch a film, when in reality we just sit there and I just kind of console Sam, and you just...
It's really like, it hits home talking about
you
this.
just confess for the whole night.
We forget, don't we? It really hits home.
And generally I think we spent majority of our time together talking about OCD and talking about Sam's thoughts he's had that day and if he'd done anything wrong, and then in response I'd just chuck a load of reassurance back at him. And it really did impact me. Again, like I said, you feel really alone. I don't know what's going on with Sam. I feel like I can't talk to someone because I don't know what to say that Sam's suffering with. So it was really tricky. And yeah, it does impact upon other people.
Do you know one thing that really stands out about that? I remember one evening you left for the night, and I don't think you were going to stay over. And you left, and I think I called you, and I was like, no, Amy, because the words you used were, you just seemed so vulnerable, and you were scared that I was just gonna, some of the stuff I was saying, so I can't do this any longer. So you saw me as a very vulnerable. So I'd call you and go, Amy, God, I've had another thought, or I've got another false memory that has latched to. Please come back. And you'd be turning around the car and coming back and then staying the night because you felt like I couldn't be alone. You felt like I couldn't go through it all by myself. So yeah, gosh, wow. Yeah.
So looking back now, it was a lot, definitely. And I think in such at such a key point of both of our lives, you're at that age, you're leaving school, you're starting new things, you're starting new jobs, you're meeting new friends, and to have this all going on in the background and trying to deal with all of this and trying to keep our relationship healthy as well, because it's so tricky trying to maintain a relationship when the only thing you talk about is your other half's mental health. And it would impact on us going out for food because Sam would
to sort of pretend it wasn't happening.
Sam would like avoidance. He's like, I'm not going there because there's like lots of people there, and what happens if I say a thought out loud, or I'm not going there because these people will be there for like POCD. You're like, no, I don't want to go there because there'll be lots of kids and it'll be really triggering. So you really do have to kind of adjust and alter your plans just to fit around your mental health.
Lots of avoidance. I mean, I talk about a lot in my videos, but there was so much avoidance, and Amy can vouch for that. I mean, it was keeping me housebound, really, wasn't it? Because everything, OCD would find something. No, can't do that. I can't be anxious. Don't want to be triggered. Don't want to be panicked. And before we know it, we're round. I'm crying my eyes out to you again. And yeah, just gradually, the mental prison that I was living in was getting more and more restricted, and OCD was just gradually sort of zoning in, where anything that I did, it would just take over and ruin, wouldn't it? And that was because I did so much avoidance.
So that was quite a big impact, and like Sam said, I don't think you realise until you look back now where life now is totally different, and you really think like, wow, we made it through those, I don't know, how long would you say it was, really a good 18 months where it was just relentless, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really tough. If we talk about, just one more point on that. I mean, this is going to be a long video because I really want to sort of go into detail, so it's going to be probably about 30 minutes, but I hope you're enjoying it so far anyway. Just how because obviously when we go out in public and go out with friends and family, no one had a clue what was going on. So we'd have to sort of pretend nothing was going on, and that was really difficult for me and also for Amy. Because if Amy sees me in a really bad state and all of a sudden we've got to go out for a family meal, for example, and we've got to put on a brave face and just act like everything's fine and everything's rosy. And but Amy sees me what I was really like, and just, like I said, an emotional state and all sorts of feelings and all sorts of, I was in absolute despair, and I was at rock bottom. So that was a really challenging thing, to go out and act normal, if you wish, or going out with friends. Do you remember being down in the pub one time with my friends? And we got home, and we left early, didn't we? Yeah. At the time we left early, and I was like, we just sort of looked at each other and then we hugged and just cried. Because you were like, you could tell I was just so low, and I was just talking to anyone at the pub. I just felt so downbeat, and we just thought, let's just go home. And then we thought, like, we're hugging, and it probably went into loads of reassurance and confession again. But I remember hugging and just crying and be like, right, we felt like we just couldn't keep the brave face up any longer.
Our date nights were just reassurance fests.
That's so sad looking back, because now they're bloody brilliant. Like, we go out, have a good laugh, have a few drinks, and we get on really, really well. And
that's the thing, I think now it's so easy for us to sit here and look back and tell everyone about it, and kind of look back and be like, oh God, why did I give you so much reassurance, and almost put like a comedy value on it and laugh about it. But I totally understand, at the time it feels absolutely awful, and you're like generally pulling your hair out, being like, what the hell do I do? Because I feel like, and especially when we found out more about the condition, I found out more that I should not be given reassurance at all. That was really tricky to adapt to. And again, that's another point where you do feel quite lost as someone who's supporting someone going through it, because you're like, what the hell do I say? Like, I've got my other half crying on my shoulder every night, and I have to sit there and be like, tough. It's really, really hard, and it took me a while to adjust. And I think it's the sooner you can get a grasp on that, and the sooner people can understand that's the really big change. And I think that's when you saw a lot of improvement at first, didn't you?
I think that's the next point in the journey, wasn't it? When you stopped giving me reassurance to the confession, you stopped sort of letting me avoid stuff. You stopped answering my multiple questions of asking the same question. You stopped filling out the notes on my phone. You stopped all compulsions that you were helping me do. Now, we spoke about, of course, is that you're going to, because I was in such a bad way, but we stopped all that. And I think this was after a few sessions with Rob. We went into the compassion, but also tough love approach. Now that, although that was very, very difficult and very challenging, I remember that was really tough to hear, and it was upsetting, because all I wanted from Amy was a shoulder to cry on, someone I could just confess all my thoughts to, someone I can get reassurance of. And then all of a sudden Amy was turning around saying, no, you need to sit with that, you're not getting reassurance off me. I don't care what confession you've got, because I'm not going to answer it. You might as well go and speak to that brick wall over there, because I'm giving nothing back to you. And that is what I needed. Now, I know that sounds very difficult, but that was a huge thing that you gave me, and I'm so thankful you gave me that, because I don't know where I'd be today. If you kept giving me reassurance, then I would have kept asking for it. So to put your foot down and say, you've got to sit with that, I'm not giving you any more reassurance. No matter what happens, you've got to take the risk, and you've got to get comfortable not knowing. You've got to get comfortable with the urge to confess. You've got to get comfortable sitting with these thoughts that you don't want, okay? You're not getting anywhere with the reassurance, because 5 minutes later I'd ask for something else. It just wasn't getting us anywhere. So I'm so thankful you went, nope, put your foot down, and that was such a big thing for the future and where I am now.
And that was definitely the turning point for me as supporting someone who's going through it. That was when it sounds really, really selfish on my behalf, but that was when I feel like I started to put myself first again and be like, no, I'm not coming round to sit with you that evening because I've got plans, and no, I'm not going to stay up until past midnight sending you lots of reassurance because I need to be up early in the morning. And I think that would be my biggest advice for anyone supporting someone going through it, is to give tough love as soon as possible, because if you don't and you keep providing that reassurance, it will just eat away at you, and it will feel like the responsibility is on you a lot of the time, being like, I need to give this reassurance because they feel so bad, and if I don't give it, they're going to feel even worse, so I need to be the person that gives it, because otherwise they're going to feel awful. And I think the sooner you can start giving that tough love and being like, no, you need to sit with it. So what if that is true? So what if you are those thoughts? Then and again, for myself to get my head around being like, so what? It is really challenging. But again, that is a big turning point for me as well. And I was like, I feel like I've got more time for myself. I feel like I'm not as mentally tired with dealing with your thoughts and confessions. So yeah, that was a big turning point, definitely.
Yeah, you've got to remember that when you do apply that tough love, that the sufferer isn't going to like it, because that's the last thing you want to hear. You when you're really struggling, and when you crave the drug of reassurance, when you're not given that, and then it is going to feel really frustrating. It's going to feel like they don't care for you anymore. It's going to feel like you're going to feel more alone, because you feel like, why aren't they giving me that reassurance? Why aren't they giving me what I feel like I so desperately need? But
especially after I've given it to you for such a long time, to have a complete change in approach, I can imagine it was very...
It was really quick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I remember after a call with Rob, I think you jumped on the call.
Yeah.
And
I was like, what do I do?
We went through how it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
I mean, we could see that, but we just needed that push of, look, you've got to take that leap. You've got to just stop it. Because if you go, well, I'll give you a bit of reassurance, I'll give you a bit of, you can avoid a bit. No, we have to go, look, it needs to stop now. It's just not getting you anywhere. So it's just taking that leap, isn't it? And it's going to feel confusing, isn't it, for both of us?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be sort of screaming for reassurance, and you're going to be like, well, I really want to give it to you because I don't like seeing you like this, but I know it isn't getting you anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough love, wasn't it? But I think that's where it's got you two today.
Oh yeah, massive.
So,
that was a big thing. I talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
How tough love was so crucial.
Yeah. And then I think after that approach was applied, the amount of time we spent talking about OCD, the amount of time Sam spent confessing and avoiding things, just slowly started to drop off. And I feel like we did more with our life then. Yeah. We were able to go on more holidays and actually enjoy it, and actually go a few days without talking about OCD.
It was mainly sort of, because I can't just go, right, I'm going to enjoy this moment. That's not how it works. It would be, I'm going to try and enjoy it regardless.
Yeah.
Okay. So bring in those the uncomfortable feelings with that. So even if I felt like utter crap, which I did at times, but I wouldn't tell Amy, because what was the point? Okay, Amy was going to be really tough, which was good, but me saying, "Oh, Amy, I feel like crap. I feel like we need to go home. I feel like we need to get the bus home. I feel like we need to go back to our hotel. I feel like we need to cancel this holiday." What was the point? So I had to get used to that and do things regardless. And this is what we talk about: bringing it for the ride and living your life regardless of how crap you're feeling.
And that's the thing, like, especially big occasions like big holidays, birthdays or Christmases, I always used to be really wary of how Sam was going to feel on those days. Like your 18th, my 18th, like big significant events, and you'd be like, God, I hope he has a good day. But then that change in mindset was like, if he has those thoughts, he just needs to sit with it, bring him along for the ride. Like, if you have him, you have him, just get on with it still.
Yeah.
So, and I think when you stopped taking that pressure off yourself to be like, I need to enjoy this holiday, I must go on this holiday and not have any thoughts, and I must enjoy it as much as I can and have no OCD whatsoever. That's not realistic. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and it's just go like that and it's gone.
Yeah, and it's just sitting with the idea and being happy and accepting with the fact you are still probably going to get those thoughts. You're still probably going to feel like crap on quite a few days, and it's just getting on with life still. And that was a big turning point as well. We
sort of both developed the fuck it approach, which is what I talk about, and that's just like I keep saying, just doing things regardless and just not letting OCD call the shots to both of our lives, not letting it make all the decisions. And what I mean by that is the avoidance, or going back to the room crying my eyes out because I felt like crap. So just bring it along for the ride regardless, and just that fuck it approach of, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway.
I might as well do everything I can.
Yeah.
And just if I have thoughts, I have thoughts.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I just wanted to go on to something else. Sort of the the effects of it. So if I give an example, so where I stopped exercising, do you remember the amount of weight I put on? And we spoke about it before this video.
Yeah.
That you'd come to the gym with me.
Yeah.
And that was really upsetting to see, because the amount of weight, because I was stress eating, you know, I was drinking a lot more than I'd like as an escape, and just sort of, but it was a key thing because I was getting back to exercising. I was avoiding exercising. I didn't want to do anything. And OCD was a big battle in my mind anyway. To think about going after work, going for a run, that was the last thing I wanted to do, because OCD was taxing enough as it is.
Yeah.
So any effort like riding a bike or going swimming or running, that just felt too much. So that was a huge step. But also going to that, you think, fucking hell, like I put on a lot of weight. And I remember even running a kilometre was like a really big challenge, and you were there like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But then you brought me along, so you helped take me to the gym.
Yeah.
You gave me those first steps back to getting my life back and towards recovery.
And that's the thing, like another piece of advice, don't avoid doing stuff as much as your other half, your friend, your family member wants to avoid it. Just drag them along.
Yeah.
Like I
So I'll be making up excuses.
Yeah, like I dragged Sam to the gym still, like I dragged Sam to family things, like we still went on holiday, and again, that's just, you need to just get on with your life still.
Yeah.
It sounds very harsh and obviously easier said than done, but
remember times I was like close to calling in sick at work, and you was like, no, you're not doing that, because you're letting OCD win there. So just, even though, oh my god, I've just remembered something. Remember when we went down you drove me down to work once, and we stopped in the car park, didn't we? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that was about 20 minutes of just crying my eyes out in the car park. And that is when I nearly called in sick and said, look, Amy, I can't do this anymore.
And that's the
I
thing,
can't possibly go to work. I can't even function, let alone, you know, look at spreadsheets and all that.
The more you avoid, the easier it is to avoid next time. So you just really need to...
I'm so thankful I pushed on though.
Yeah, you just need to avoid as much as you... What am I trying to say? You need to... Not avoid as much as you can.
Yeah, just got to push through. Like when you feel like that, like it would have so easy for us to turn around in that moment and go, right, Sam, we're going back home. We're going down a confession cycle. You call in sick. You stay in your comfort zone. You stay in your safe space, and you don't day to day. But so glad you pushed me to go to work, and I just got on with it and pushed through. I'm so thankful I did that. So if we jump on sort of, because I think we spoke a lot about sort of the rock bottom and being low. I just want to we'll go on to how I am today, sort of towards the end. But so when I started doing recovery work, now one point I want to mention. So I did a lot of disputing. Yeah. All right. But with my obsessive nature, I would then become obsessed with that. And I remember, do you remember me doing it like every day, because I felt like I felt relief. I felt like I was getting somewhere. So I then just be so focused on recovery. Okay. But that is when fear hit me like a ton of bricks, because any relapse, I felt like, oh my God, I'm doing all this recovery work, but I'm not getting anywhere. I feel like I'm back to square one. I felt like a new theme's going to hit me and I can't cope. Okay, so I was so obsessed with recovery work, it became counterproductive. I think I remember at the time you saying to me, look, put down the books, put down the disputing, and let's still live your life regardless, right? Because I went the other way. I went so obsessed with recovery that's all we spoke about in that regard of disputing. Yeah.
And again, I think it's very easy to obsess over the recovery and the disputing, like Sam said. And again, you don't want to put all your effort into recovering and disputing, that you, again, almost avoid doing things because you're putting it all into recovery. So it's just about having... Sorry, that's the dog.
I think he wants to get in the video.
Yeah, it's just about having that balance and, again, having it as a goal to put in the effort to recover and dispute, or however else you are actively recovering.
It's finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you were very helpful with that. You could see it how easily it could become compulsive. Yeah. And you sort of gave me that balance, or you sort of said, you just going to spend all evening disputing? And it's because I was so desperate for that quick fix, that relief. Yeah. Although it was good in a way that I was putting in recovery work, you sort of gave me that balance. I wasn't doing it, that our whole life didn't just become all about disputing, all about doing exposures, all about breaking down beliefs, because like I said, you gave me that balance, and just you sort of still look, we still got to live our lives as well.
Yeah.
You can't just focus all on recovery and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's just guess where you are today.
Yeah, where I am today. Yeah. How would you describe it?
Aside from the dog walk we went on before this video, where we had a chat about what we were going to say in this video, I said I generally can't remember the last time we spoke about it. We go to bed and talk about our day, talk about the dog, talk about things we've done, rather than Sam just confess and spend the whole evening confessing. And
the time I would talk about OCD now would be
I'm gonna go make a video.
I'm gonna make a video, or when we cast our minds back and go, do you remember that?
Yeah.
It certainly wouldn't be any confession. It wouldn't be any reassurance of any kind.
No.
And
I think just like Sam's outlook on everything has completely changed, and obviously it all stems from dealing with OCD, but it's his whole outlook on life in general. It's just far much more positive, but also being realistic and understanding that if life or things in life don't go the way you want to, just being like accepting of it and dealing with it, because in reality things aren't always going to go your way.
I mean, I wouldn't change my battle with OCD or my OCD journey for the world. From where it's got to me today, like dealing with all life's challenges and adversities and all the things that life throws up. I mean, it's left me very well equipped in regards to perspectives and just dealing with things and just not procrastinating and just getting on with stuff. So I wouldn't change that. So we've gone from rock bottom, where I was crying every night to Amy, to I getting up in the morning. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I can't wait to see what the day has in store. Like I'm normally the last one to bed and first one up.
Yeah.
Like I'm enjoying life, and it's not. It feels very bright. It's not just full of dread, and that's because from where I've come from, where that was the case 24/7 with the chronic guilt in the background, it just felt like a very dark, lonely place. And then to come from that to where I am today, I'm very grateful for stuff, aren't I?
Yeah.
The gratitude's very high, and to see all the different perspectives, and just not like moaning, not complaining. And just going, okay, how can we overcome this? And it helps in our relationship with overcoming certain things. I mean, if no one knows, we're planning a wedding, aren't we? Because we are happily engaged, aren't we? So just overcoming things like that and all the challenges that brings, or just with our individual lives, all the challenges it faces, and how we can sit down and have a conversation about just life and not just focus on OCD. But I'm so thankful that the tools and the perspectives that OCD has taught me on my journey, how it can develop and enhance my life, and I hope I can give you knowledge and help with your life as well.
And definitely there's things that Sam has taught me from like the books he's read, the disputing he's done, the breaking down of beliefs, that I take forward and use like in my work life and day-to-day life, and it just makes you so much more accepting about anything that happens, and so much more thankful that you have a life, and so much more thankful that you get to wake up every day and have a life and be healthy and
gratitude.
I'm very thankful about just life in general, to be fair.
Yeah, I really wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, it's definitely taught us a lot.
yeah, and I mean the bottom. I was going to say the bottom line, but the one thing I do have to remember, although Amy is very, very good at understanding how it operates and very supportive when I was at my lowest, that Amy will never truly understand OCD because you haven't experienced it. Now that's no fault of Amy's, that's no fault of mine. If you haven't experienced it, you only see it from an onlooker or an observer. You see what it can do to someone, how selfish it can make me, how it destroyed me, really, how I was so low. But because you never experienced that, although you experienced all the reassurance and all the sort of really difficult times you went through, I've accepted that you will never understand what it's like to have my brain, and that's fine, because you're never going to.
No.
It's like if someone else had a really obscure disease, say, I can't, just because you might know them or live with them, it doesn't mean you're going to completely understand it, because you're not. That's unrealistic. So I've made peace that although it's great that you've made the effort to understand it, that you never need to accept it, or even know how
Fully
it works, or you
understand it,
never,
yeah.
that never needs to be the case. You don't need your partner to fully understand OCD to recover, is just what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Is you can, of course, you can try and advise them, you can try and say, look, but I'm getting these thoughts, but without them experiencing it, the reality is they're not going to understand it, but you don't need that understanding from them for you to recover.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly like Sam said, nothing is going to beat first-hand experience. And for people supporting someone who's suffering with it, obviously read up, do your research. Like I've read a couple of the books you have, which, like I previously said, have helped massively in my own life, and you can take those teachings forward and apply them in your own life. But
Right, we hope you enjoyed the video. It did just randomly end, so we'll wrap up now. Before we do, this is our beautiful dog Baxter. I don't know if you saw much of him, because he was desperate to make an appearance when he the whole time, but he finally has, and he's desperate to play. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed Amy on the channel.
Lovely to talk to you all.
And if you have, please leave a like and leave a comment. That'd be much appreciated. Anyway, you take care and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Bye.